All right. Hello, everybody. This is chapter 5. Okay, so photosynthesis. Okay. Okay. Let's cover photosynthesis since we need to understand plant life. Autotrophs, like this plant right here, okay, use photosynthesis to capture solar energy from the sun. Okay, by definition, so things that use photosynthesis are producers. They'll produce energy for the rest of us. Okay, and they are also by far the dominant groups. Okay, so there are more producers than there are consumers. Okay, by about 10-to-1 ratio. Okay, all right. Okay, photosynthesis is a process of converting light, okay, kinetic energy into chemical stored energy. Okay, photosynthesis is a series of chemical reactions that use light energy to assemble CO2 from the air into molecules of glucose and other carbohydrates. So the way we explain photosynthesis is pretty simple. We take photosynthesis and we use it. We take carbon dioxide and water and combine it with the solar energy from sunlight, so kinetic energy, okay, and we store the energy, okay, into sugar, the potential energy of sugar. And as a waste product, we get oxygen. Okay, I know you guys think oxygen is critically important for life and stuff. It is not. It's critically important for human life. Okay, there are plenty of things that can live on without oxygen, and a lot of those things, a lot of plants can do perfectly fine without oxygen. Okay, all right. Oxygen is a mess. Okay, they need little bits of it, but okay. So sugar is a critical food source. Okay, so plants make sugar, animals, fungi, other consumers eat sugar. We other like plants, animals, and other things use sugar for energy to make other things like fat and protein. So a lot of sugar is the source of almost all energy, sort of. Okay. Okay. So okay, photosynthesis. Okay, photosynthetic organisms need a few simple molecules to make sugar. So sunlight, okay, as an energy reservoir, carbon dioxide as a carbon source, and then water. Okay. Okay. As sugar is formed during photosynthesis, oxygen gas is released into the atmosphere. So for plants, oxygen is actually a waste product. Okay, and you'll see that more clearly later. If there's too much oxygen inside a plant leaf, it actually makes this whole process slow down and not stop, and that's really, really bad for the plant. So plants really need to get rid of oxygen, just like we need to get rid of carbon dioxide. And high levels of carbon dioxide are poisonous to us. High levels of oxygen are poisonous to plants. So being able to carry out photosynthesis is evolutionarily advantageous for organisms because it allows them to make their own food. Okay. All the other things are true. They do produce oxygen. They do make food for heterotrophs. They do use carbon dioxide, but that's not the advantage. The advantage is they make their own food, and therefore they don't have to hunt and eat. They just have to sit there and grow. Okay. All right. Why is this photosynthesis essential both autotrophs and heterotrophs? Well, because without it, it's hard to get energy. Okay. Okay. So the sun emits energy in waves. Okay. So what we see as sunlight is white light, but in reality, it's not white light. what we see are all these different wavelengths. Okay, violet, blue. Okay, the shorter wavelengths actually have more energy than higher wavelengths. Okay, visible light is one part of the Earth's energy, and one part of the sun's energy. They also emit UV radiation, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with, from sunlight, and then even X-rays and gamma rays, but there's less of those. And then infrared and then microwaves and radio waves. Okay, these are much lower energy than the light waves. So these are higher energy, and these are lower energy. Okay, so photons are packets of energy. Okay. Okay. All right, pigments found in plants specialize in absorbing energy from different wavelengths of light. So, okay, so there are two types of chlorophyll in the plant. Both of them are green, and which is why they don't absorb at all in the green region. But almost every other region, they do absorb the light. So you see the way you read this is they absorb purple and blue, and they absorb red and orange. They do not absorb green and yellow. Okay, they reflect green and yellow. So if you shine green light on it, it bounces off, which is why we see plants as green. Okay. 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 So the only absorbed light is useful for photosynthesis. Okay. So green light is not absorbed, is reflected. So shining a green light on a plant, for example, won't let the plant grow at all. Okay. All right. Why are leaves green? Because they absorb almost everything other than green. Green is reflected. We see green. Okay. Okay. Gas exchange occurs on leaf pores called stromata. Okay. So these are just stroma. So stromata is plural. Sorry. Stromata is singular. Stroma is plural. What these holes are holes where carbon dioxide can leak into the plant cell, and CO2 and water vapor can leak out of the plant cell. Okay. These guys contain chloroplasts. Okay, chloroplasts are actually large organelles that are only found in plants and algae. Okay, so this is a chloroplast. Okay. 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 You don't have to worry about the thylakoid membrane, etc., etc. Okay. So you do have to understand this slide, which is a photosystem. Okay. A photosystem. So plants are made out of these pigments. These pigments are green, which is why the whole thing is green. They have so much of this pigment that it stains everything green. Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Okay, so photosynthesis is a series of chemical reactions. Overall, the reactants are light, carbon dioxide, and water. Okay, the products are oxygen and sugar. You definitely need to know that. Okay, so for photosynthesis, there's actually two parts to it. Okay. And for both parts, you have to know what goes into photosynthesis and what comes out. The exact reactions that happen, that's not at this level. But what goes into it and what comes out of it is definitely is. Okay. Okay. So photosynthesis occurs in two stages. The first stage are the light reactions. The second stage are called the carbon reactions. Um, what they usually call it is the Calvin cycle or the Dark cycle for carbon reactions. Okay, so if you ever like when I start talking, I generally refer to it as a Calvin cycle. Okay, because that's what the scientific term is actually. Okay, so first off, the light reactions begin photosynthesis. Okay, the light reactions occur in the thylakoid membranes and require water and light. Okay, ATP and NADPH are produced to carry stored energy. Okay, oxygen gas is formed as a byproduct. So let's look right here. Okay, so how does this work? Okay, so let's start with part one. Okay, part one. Okay, light strikes the first photosystem, which is called photosystem 2. Okay, so unfortunately, photosystem 2 was discovered, or photosystem 1 was discovered before photosystem 2, but photosystem 2 actually works first. Okay, so it's a little bit backwards. Okay, so the first thing that happens is photosystem 2. Okay, light hits photosystem 2, and the light source gets concentrated in this center thing right here, and that the energy from the light source, okay, shoots up these electrons. Okay, the electrons come from the splitting of water into oxygen. So this right here is where plants produce oxygen. Okay, they split water, they shoot two electrons up, and what's left is oxygen. Okay, and they split out two H pluses here. Okay, so H plus, H plus. Okay, so a bunch of H pluses here. Okay, these two electrons are now really high energy electrons. Okay, they get passed down the electron transport chain. Okay, as they pass down the electron transport chain, okay, it allows hydrogen to be pumped in. Okay, these hydrogens then leave here and generate ATP. Okay, every time they leave through the ATP synthase, they make the ATP. Okay, so ATP synthase is an enzyme that makes ATP. Okay, the way ATP synthase works, it takes a hydrogen and it passes it through the molecule. The thing has a little turnstile to it, just like you would when entering like Dodger Stadium or Staples Center or Crypto.com Arena now. It pushes that bar, and as you crank the bar, it generates enough energy to make one ATP. Okay, so the photosystem 2 generates a couple ATP here. Okay, but most importantly, it passes the electron down this way. Okay, to photosystem 1. Okay, so the electron from photosystem 2, okay, get passed down to photosystem 1. Okay, eventually. So the electrons in photosystem 2 enter the first electron transport chain. So here is electron transport chain. The electron transport chain, okay, generates enough energy to pump hydrogens into this membrane. The hydrogens do not want to be here. They want to come back out. Okay, so they come back out through the ATP synthase and generate ATP as a result. Okay, so the ATP synthase generates ATP. Okay, the electrons are then moved to photosystem number 1. Okay, and then more light hits it. And more light hits it, this shoots up to a super high level. Okay, that super high level, okay, is enough to generate NADPH. Okay, if you remember from chapter 4, adding hydrogens is adding electrons. Adding electrons is adding energy. The electrons reduce NADP plus to NADPH. So you have now a very high energy molecule with electrons around it. So this will power a lot of different things later on in the carbon cycle. Okay. Okay. All right. So how do the light reactions produce ATP? Well, okay. So the potential energy stored in hydrogen ion gradient is used to synthesize ATP. Okay. All right. So hopefully you should be able to answer this question. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop here for the end of part 1, and we'll pick this up with part 2. Okay.